Don't miss out on the Enjoy Everyday Walking Meditation Pack over on the 10% Happier app. It's available for free until August 20th. If you haven't tried walking meditation on the app before, I highly recommend you check it out. Here is what one user had to say. I'm quoting here. I'm in my 6th year with 10%. I start and end my day with it. I like their walking meditations to use when I'm out exercising or walking the dog. The longer I use it, the more I learn nuances and subtleties and refinements of the process. It is life-changing. That's awesome to hear. Download the 10% Happier app today, wherever you get your apps, and get started for free.
Your business gets to a certain size and the cracks start to emerge. If this is you, you should know these 3 numbers: 36,000, 25, 1. 36,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud financial system. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, so you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance. Absolutely free at netsuite.com/financials. That's netsuite.com/financials to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/financials.
Oh, we're not rolling?
Are we rolling? We are rolling. Yes, okay, good. We're rolling.
Great. All right, I'm John Mulaney. Just so there's some
people
clarity.
can tell our voices apart.
Thank you.
So we've done a lot of amazing podcasts, but this guy is among our most delightful guests. John Mulaney is a comedian. You may have seen him in some of his specials that have been on Comedy Central. He wrote for Saturday Night Live. He had a short-lived sitcom on Fox, which was canceled, which caused him a lot of emotional tumult, and it was during that period that he turned to meditation. So we're going to talk about that, and as you'll hear, he's really raw and really honest about that period in his life. He has bounced back really well, though, with more stand-up around the country and specials, and he now has a hit show on Broadway, a 2-man show that he co-wrote and co-stars in with his fellow comedian and old friend Nick Kroll. It's called Oh Hello. I've seen it. It's amazing. And it's going to be running on Broadway at the Lyceum Theater through January. Full disclosure, as sometimes happens on this show, John is, as is the case with some other guests, a personal friend of mine, so don't expect a lot of journalistic objectivity, but do expect a really interesting and very funny conversation. So here he is, John Mulaney. From ABC, this is the 10% Happier podcast. I'm Dan Harris. When did you start meditating? How? Why?
I started meditating after I read... Oh, this is such a plug. After I read your book, 10% Happier by Dan Harris, who is you.
I knew the answer to that.
I was in Ojai. I got your book. I had...
Is it weird to get a book by like a dude you actually, know? I wouldn't want to actually read my friend's book. I find it kind of annoying.
You had an interesting life with many pockets of which I had not ever spoken to you about.
That's I guess true.
I never knew how much you did as a war correspondent, as a foreign correspondent. I never knew about any of that.
But I
remember trying to cram everything I wanted to say about the book into either a tweet or some...
No, you sent me a very long email.
Well, there was that. But then I think I had to do the Wall Street Journal was like, what are your favorite books of the year? And I had one sentence to sum up 10% Happier. And I was trying to say you could approach this as a news junkie or as someone who likes the memoir of a foreign correspondent or whatever. There's so many ways in. And I came at it just from knowing you personally, which was good.
But I was just going to say, I go to your stuff, but you're actually performing and making me laugh. If I go see you doing stand-up or you on a TV show or you on a talk show or your current Broadway show, it's not like I have to sit there listening to you tell me about every corner of your personal life.
Right,
that's
but I'm not interested in people making me laugh.
Yeah, because you're bored of it because that's what you do all day long. But that's a particular disease.
That's a particular disease. Many comedians watch so many documentaries. There must be. It's a true we want sad realism. So anyway, no, it was the exact kind of candid memoir that of also an interesting life. There's lots of candid memoirs of uninteresting lives.
Yes, that is true. Anyway, thank you for saying that. So you're at Ojai and you read the book. we don't really need to talk about the book, but I'm more interested in what was going on in your life that the idea of meditation was not repellent to you, and then how soon you acted on it.
So I did this show for Fox that did not go well. In the end, I mean, it was a long, long journey, and the end result was that it didn't work out that well. This is a show called Mulaney, which is my name.
Yeah.
So we had, which I don't recommend. So we had 6.
The show or the name?
I have always wondered if I should have taken a stage name, because sometimes I'm saying something and I'm like, your grandfather doesn't need to pay for this, you know? These people came over from Ireland to escape a famine, and now you're on stage just selling everyone out. It's terrible.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. And would I be able to disassociate who I am from the comedian that I am? And is that even a good idea? I don't know. But I've thought about that sometimes.
You talk to Sting about it, or people who have
What's Sting's
stage
real
names.
name?
I have no idea.
Yeah, good. See, because you can go, I hate Sting, and he can secretly think, well, that's cool because I'm not Sting.
Yeah, or I hate him too. He might think.
He might think I also dislike Sting.
Bono, Sting. I mean, a lot of people have these names.
I think Bono likes himself, but
yeah. I wasn't referring to his self-esteem. I was more referring to the fact that he can separate in the way that you're rhapsodizing about now.
Yeah, but sometimes when people are like, John Mulaney sucks, I'm like, well, that's not fair to like that 11-year-old kid that was John Mulaney, because he didn't do all these things. Yeah.
Right. He might have sucked though in his own special way.
Oh yeah, he sucked hard, but like, what a sensitive. I mean, if he read that in print at age 11, he would have been very upset.
People say John Mulaney sucks. Like you've actually seen that
sure,
in print.
Of course.
Really?
Of course.
You're so likable.
Thanks. It's a good. I'm glad. Appreciate it. I get a lot of very nice compliments and nice feedback. I've been very lucky. I've had many, many pats on the back.
Yeah, no, because I've been in large rooms of people like freaking out over you, where people.
What are these rooms?
Carnegie Hall.
Oh, that stuff. I was picturing boardrooms.
No, not boardrooms.
I was picturing closed
I went to see you at Carnegie Hall, and I was just in Schubert Theater on Broadway the other day.
The Lyceum Theater.
The Lyceum. Oh, sorry, it's the Schubert.
It's a Schubert-owned theater.
It's a beautiful place, by the way,
Beautiful
and everybody
theater.
loves you. So who's calling you? Who says you suck?
Oh well, just I've gotten great reviews. I've gotten bad reviews.
Yeah.
I've gotten mean tweets. I've gotten tons of nice tweets. None of this is complaining. I'm just saying we were specifically talking about the stage name stuff.
Yes.
And I always wondered, like, I have to be, when I'm like at the doctor sick, I'm like, the name's Mulaney, John. So I'm sort of like, should that name be separate from the name that you can say sucks?
It's too late now either way.
Well, I was like,
people...
I'm Johnny Starr now.
With 2 R's?
That would, of course with 2 R's. That would probably not go over well. In fact, other people have tried it and it doesn't work.
Who's tried it mid-career?
Garth Brooks.
He tried it mid-career?
Remember? He
No.
had a whole separate persona. Boy.
Garth Brooks did a whole side thing?
Come on, Dan. You don't know about this?
No.
He had a small soul patch. People are nodding in the room with us. They know about it. If anyone knows, I'm not opposed. But it was like,
there are 2 nice
it was
gentlemen
like
in the room with us.
Chris
Gaines?
Chris Gaines.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Well,
Someone who's been dying to say
one
it.
of our photojournalists in the room knew the answer. So but clearly didn't go well. I haven't heard of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was not well received. Putting on a wig and a soul patch and saying you have a different name. It didn't go well after years of being famous as Garth Brooks. Okay. Anyway, so when I read your book, I was working on this Fox show. We did 6 episodes. Then we had almost 3 months of not shooting while we waited to hear if we'd make more episodes. And then we made 7 more episodes. So in between those 2, I was reading the book. And I was probably at peak stress, peak ambition, and on some level, just not at all liking the balance I had, and kind of feeling like I was on like Mars. I was like living on Mars, and I wasn't comfortable there.
Yeah,
I think some people are comfortable on Mars.
Matt Damon.
Oh, because he lived on Mars in the movie.
Sorry,
right.
Thanks for getting the joke a little bit late.
I thought you were like, oh, that guy's a space cadet.
I don't know.
But
Matt
he
Damon.
literally was in the movie. He was uncomfortable on Mars. Though.
He was.
Live.
You're right. There were a few triumphant scenes, like when he was growing potatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. But what happened to that potato farm, I don't think we'll ever get over. So I was like, this is weird air to live in.
Yep.
and I don't know if I like it that much. But I had the feeling that I could not be introspective or I would lose momentum, which I think was a good, because there are many things in your book, but I think the idea of like you can live in an urban environment and hustle and work hard, or you can be in an ashram like staring at the wall.
False dichotomy.
Yeah. So that was just the start of it, I guess. There's many things I don't want to reduce the book to just one thing, or my reaction to it to just one thing, or what meditating's done to just one thing. But that was definitely a jumping off point.
And so you're in Ojai. You actually start meditating there?
Yes. Did exactly what you did. Tried it for a few minutes and hated it. And then I went to Chicago right after it. And my parents have, like, we still have, like, it was just a big house because there were a lot of kids. And so there's a lot of empty rooms. There's a lot of good places to try meditating because it's like when my parents are at work, it's just an empty house. And I tried it more and more while I was there for that week, which was when I emailed you, I think. I started doing it for about, just out of ambition. I started trying it for 15 minutes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was for going from 3 minutes to 15 was pretty good.
Big jump.
And I think I had maybe 4 or 5 days of doing it. And in the middle of that, I got some email regarding an edit of an episode that normally would sort of spike my anger levels out of control. And I remember reading it, and I was able to kind of process it. And I was also able to separate the good experience of shooting the episode from the difficult experience of what was going to get edited down in the episode, and go that does not, I just remember thinking, like, that does not change the fact that you had a good time making this, which is again not in your book. But
no, but that's a great example of the rubber hitting the road pretty quickly. I mean, you'd done just a little bit of meditation, and here you are faced with an unpleasant data point, and instead of just letting it yank you around, you actually, there was a moment of reflection.
There was a moment of reflection, and I was having anger for the first time, like out loud, while working on the TV show.
Previously?
Yeah, before that, I'd lost my temper.
Set.
Not on the set, over the phone.
Wow. I actually have a hard time picturing that.
Yeah, and so do I. And it was weird, and it felt like out of body, and it felt like uncontrollable.
Well, just by way of context, so your career leading up to that, and I'll make some statements, you correct me where I've gone wrong, but
Absolutely.
You were largely a writer and a stand-up comedian. So you were doing a ton of traveling as a stand-up comedian, but you were also one of the senior writers on Saturday Night Live, and this was a huge development for you. Fox came and said, we're going to give you a show. You called it Mulaney.
It had been at NBC, and it was a pilot there, and then they passed on it, and we took it to Fox. So that was kind of its own coup as well.
Because that rarely happens.
I'm just building up the amount of confidence I have.
Because that does rarely happen. Because usually if a network passes, and again, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but if a network passes on a sitcom or puts
damaged goods. Yeah.
Yes. So you were able to bring it to Fox. Mm-hmm. This was a very heady time, and I don't blame you for getting... I can only imagine how stressful it is. It's your first show. It's got your name on it. And that pressure can make you snappy.
Yeah, pressure plus no context for anything, Like, am I supposed to walk around going, am I supposed to ever say the words, excuse me, but my name is on the show? Or do only monsters say that? Or do you sometimes have to have an ego? Or should you never have an ego?
Right.
Is someone going to write a tell-all about how I was the worst boss ever running a show, or was I the best boss ever running a show? Yeah, at what point do you put your foot down? At what point do you get angry? No one was quite, maybe I was also not asking for that advice, but also I didn't feel like I had a grid for that.
I wouldn't even know where to start.
And so I just blew up on a phone call. And it was like it didn't help. It was not good.
Yeah. Rarely does.
It really didn't help. And I just felt bad. And I also then apologized for it, which I felt, in retrospect, it was like, well, in apologizing, I tried to concede what I'd fought for on the call. It was just a mess. But I have a visceral memory of being on the phone and feeling like I have never yelled this much before in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Or I've never yelled in this way. the way someone does in a movie.
Right.
Where you're just like, no, let me get this straight. So no, hold on a second, because you just said this, but then last week you said this. So were you lying then, or are you lying now? That kind of thing. I just explain it to me. Explain it to me. That kind of thing.
My heart rate is rising.
I'm stressed out just thinking about it. So anyway,
you're not just thinking about it. Just for the record,
I'm not.
You're actually reenacting it.
I'm reenacting it and enjoying it, and I'm afraid of it. So
okay. So you this is good emotional context here. So then you start meditating, and then here was this email that might have enraged you, and then all of a sudden, actually, it was obviously not awesome, but your reaction was less heated than it otherwise would have been.
It wasn't just blanket seeing red. And also, I do have a tendency to go, I got mad about that email, ergo the whole experience. I can taint an experience with like, what a great party, but at the very end, someone said something to me that pissed me off, so it was a bad party.
Right. And so did you keep meditating from there?
I tried to and didn't. I didn't. We went back into production.
Very common, by the way.
Yeah.
That people fall off.
I tried to, but didn't. We went back into production. I made a lot of promises to myself about doing it, and then totally didn't do it.
And when and why did you start back up?
Okay, so the show was very poorly received by all humans and canceled. So then,
not by all humans.
Okay, but it's not the margin of people. It didn't even win the popular vote. It was canceled, lost the popular vote and the EC, and the amount of people that voted for it was the Gary Johnson of TV shows.
Okay. So you
so
felt.
Sure, some people voted for it, but I'm not like self-flagellating saying that. I think it's a healthy thing to look at it and go, that did not work by most all metrics.
You feel the show didn't work, or it was just poorly received?
Well, that's a whole other question.
Yeah.
Which I can't say I know the answer to or have fully unpacked, because when you have something that you did so many jobs on and we're so front and center on, and then people dislike it, you want to learn lessons from it, and you want to move on, right? And you want to move on too fast. That's the first move, is like, well, let's just do something else. But you can't do that. And I sort of hit a wall. I went on tour. It was canceled, and I went on the road 4 days later thinking, like, I'm just going to leave this behind me and go back to being a stand-up. And I've totally processed this experience.
Well, I mean, we were talking a little bit during that time, and you were definitely working on processing it. I mean, you were definitely willing to talk about it and work it through.
I hit a wall fast, realizing I couldn't outrun it.
Yes.
I had to go through it rather than, around it.
And so in that period, is that when you started meditating again?
Yes. In Sacramento, I think, which was the first city I went on to. Oh, sorry, that was the first city I went on to.
Okay, I was going to say that's
it was like,
I understand.
I always drive to Sacramento to begin my spiritual quests. It is the capital, after all. No, I was doing shows in Sacramento, and every bit of anxiety I'd ever had just came like crashing down. I was just sitting in the hotel being like, oh man, I'm done.
And was your wife with you?
No.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh yeah. It was bad.
Just so everybody knows, your wife,
Anna Marie Mulaney.
I didn't know whether it was okay to say that. I guess she's a public figure in
public
her own
figure.
right. She wrote a very cool book called The Daily
Face. Which
is about her makeup expertise. She does the makeup for Oh Hello, which is
she does the special effects makeup and is our wig supervisor for Oh Hello. She makes beautiful, beautiful Victorian lampshades.
She does.
As well.
If you can follow her on Instagram, and you can see those lampshades. And she's also just, this I can say with real authority, a wonderful human being.
She's a wonderful human being.
And
she's the reason I know you.
Yes, she is the reason why we know each other. And she also is a real this I also can say with confidence, a big source of strength and comfort for you personally. And that's why I asked whether she was in the room with you in Sacramento, because she really should have been. No, I'm not blaming her. I'm saying it would have helped.
Yeah. It would have helped. So, also, in the period where I started meditating, that break between episodes, I got married. So it wasn't like Anna and I got married. I didn't just get married solo. It wasn't like it wasn't a time with no activity going on.
Right.
Planning the wedding.
Yes. Although, let's just be honest, she did do all of the work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, did I say we were planning the wedding? I was occasionally checking in as my wife planned a perfect wedding. So I started meditating. The biggest thing that got me back into it was I was having a lot of episodes of panic, which you can totally relate to.
Yeah, but I didn't know that I knew you were feeling anxious and depressed, but I didn't know it was actually
yeah.
Was it on stage panic or just
occasionally?
Wow.
It was, it was like, it wasn't always the complete shortness of breath. I don't enjoy physically feeling this way. It got to that point a couple times, and it's still, I've still had to breathe my way down over the years from some kind of just flood of adrenaline or anxiety like that. It was more like I would feel very anxious all day before a show, and it was kind of.
And this is something you've been doing for forever.
Oh, that was the other thing, is I'd done it for, at that point, 8 years, and it was like my favorite thing in the world to do. So walking around being like, does everyone hate me? Yeah. Have I totally ruined my life? Have I totally ruined my career? Is there any coming back from this? There's probably no coming back from this. This is one of those things there's no coming back from. Having all those thoughts alone in a hotel room in Sacramento is just, it's so uncomfortable. It's so physically uncomfortable for me, anxiety, that it kind of ruined the whole experience leading up to a show. And then on stage sometimes I would be standing there thinking like, well, it was actually a lot more before. Sometimes I would have tightness on stage, but it was kind of residual. It was just this like ball of anxiety all day.
And so how did meditation help with any of that?
Yeah, completely. Because it was like, it didn't always help in the moment, and it didn't always help that day, but I was very committed starting around December of that year to doing it every day. And I think the cumulative effect of that was very, very good. Yeah. But I really did. I've had days where I'd meditate for 20 minutes at the hotel, then I get backstage and I meditate for like 7 minutes just to kind of ground just to be like, also like, now I'm in this theater, now I'm in this space, this is going to be great, there's a ton of people out there, but just somehow to do it in the space I was about to perform in helped. But I'd still be on this like, I'd stop that meditation, it was my second of the day, I'd put my shoes back on and I'd be like, whew, I'm still flooded with all these thoughts. But it definitely became a cumulative thing.
That totally jives with my experience of the thing. It doesn't, fix your problems. All it does is just equip you to better handle them.
Oh, in the beginning it fixed my problems. I should say. The anger, and then the first few times I meditated after that, it was almost like, oh, I've calmed down.
Gotcha.
All the cobwebs are gone.
Interesting.
Life is but that didn't last at all. And the actual effect of it became long-term. It became like a long-term drug as opposed to a short-term drug.
Yes. What I was going to say, in fact, one of the things that can get in the way of it working is you expecting it to do a certain thing, because 100%. Expectation is a hindrance. I mean, like that's right from the Buddhist scriptures. Desire to feel different through meditation will get in the way of whatever is supposed to happen. All that's supposed to happen really is that you're supposed to see clearly whatever's happening already. And that actually is magic, because once you see, oh yeah, like I'm feeling all these things or I'm thinking all these things and it's manifesting this way in my body, that actually is enough distance so that you aren't yanked around by it anymore. Yeah. That's the magic. So going in expecting, look, I want to come out of this blissed out and zened out, is, in my view and in my experience, like a recipe for disappointment.
Totally. I think I first went back to it thinking it was going to be like when you sob as when you sobbed as a little kid and then after you felt great.
Yeah, well, I never did that, but I hear it.
When you sobbed as a teen publicly? No, it was like, like very cathartic, like, wow. Because I wouldn't, it was one of those things where like I wouldn't have been breathing all day. So it was the first time I'd even taken a deep breath. So it was very like blissed out feeling, right? And then I had to but then it's like it didn't end in Sacramento. I had to go to Denver. I had to go to Chicago. It just kept going, and like the feelings didn't go away, and I wasn't done processing that I had this big professional failure. So it was like it just kept happening, and I kept meditating, and there were many weeks that it was like, this is pointless.
So did you quit? What was the move?
No, I was. It was physically. I guess it was physically uncomfortable, the anxiety, enough that I would always be happy to exercise or sit down and meditate.
Gotcha.
But it was a really like, I was very focused, and I was on this tour, and it was a really like monastic existence. It was kind of perfect for it, but it's also set it up. It was not a clear test run for meditating in life.
Welcome to the Bishop Gray Academy, the country's most exclusive boarding school, a place where the best and brightest aren't fighting to be prom queen or captain of the football team. They're on track to become the next Supreme Court justice. Academy is a new scripted podcast that follows Ava Richards, a brilliant scholarship student who must quickly adapt in a school where rules mean nothing and money means everything. Ava sets her sights on being the first scholarship student to make the list, Bishop Gray's all-coveted academic top 10, curated by the headmaster himself. But with no clear path to the top, she joins the Night of the Wolf, Bishop Gray's underground society with more secrets than the Illuminati. If she bends to their demands in exchange for her own success, one of the 10 coveted spots will be hers, but at what cost? Enjoy Academy on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Binge all 10 episodes of Academy early and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus over on the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the first part of the 20th century, the Hilton family had a lock on the hotel industry by offering upscale service at a modest price. The company was expanding fast and buying up iconic properties across the country, like the Plaza and the Waldorf Astoria. But their unchallenged rise wouldn't last. An ambitious Mormon named J.W. Marriott decides to pivot from restaurants to hospitality, and he's after Hilton's business, developing modern hotels across the world. But both the Hilton and Marriott families will have to contend with their share of drama in finding a successor, while also fighting to stay solvent in a high-stakes business. Hi, I'm David Brown, the host of Wondery's show Business Wars. We go deep into some of the biggest corporate rivalries of all time. In our latest season, Hilton and Marriott are in a race to expand globally and secure the loyalty of fickle customers. Make sure to follow Business Wars wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen ad-free on the Amazon Music or Wondery app.
Can I say a few things about my view of you during this period? Maybe embarrassing because I'm going to say nice things, but like I think you can tell a lot about somebody by how they handle adversity, and I thought you handled it, just from my vantage point. We only had a few conversations about it on email and in person, like, incredibly well.
Well, thanks.
Bad things happen to all of us, and sometimes we let it make us into monsters, and you did the exact opposite. And I mean, there were a few things that stand out in my mind. One, just talking to you about it, and you were so like forthright and just clearly like holding the thing up and looking at it from every different angle. But then the moment on Kimmel, which I'm not going to be able to recreate because I know you know what you said, where he asked you how the show went. What was your line again?
I think I said, well, none of the critics liked it, but fortunately the audience didn't like it either.
Yeah, fortunately, we had low ratings. Yeah, something along those lines. It was very, very funny. And then your bounce back, my view, was like really triumphant, because you then, not long thereafter, went and performed at Carnegie Hall. And it was amazing. Like, that was incredible. And I remember your first line when you walked out on stage was, well, back to stand-up.
Oh, really?
And
yeah, that's
and
right.
It was great, and people loved it. It was sold out, and
it was really
amazing.
fun. That was the other thing. Okay, so now
you could have put. I guess what I'm saying, you could have put your head in the sand. You could have just let it make you into a total jerk or a quitter, and you did neither of those things, and you worked through it, even though it was really hard. So I think that's all really awesome. Is all.
Well,
I'm trying
thanks.
to say.
That's a huge credit to Anna, my wife, without whom I don't know if I would have gone through it as much. I think I would have absolutely tried to go around it or bury it, but you can't you can't be going through that and come home to someone with whom you're honest and talk to and not and go, yeah, everything's going to be great. I think I'm going to repitch. And you can't just, I don't know. Or at least I'm very grateful. Like we don't have that relationship at all. There was no. It was like coming home, like having gotten my ass kicked. There was no way to pretend it hadn't happened.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't pretend it didn't happen.
No, not at all. And she also was very protective, but was kind of like, this is survivable, you know? I remember I said to her, like, I don't know what this is or something. And she was like, oh, you were never made fun of as a kid. She's like, you've never been unpopular before. And I was like, oh. And she was like, yeah, a lot of people go through this.
Usually in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty wise thing to point out.
I mean, she was just like, this is not, I mean, she wasn't, sorry. Implicitly, there was the underlying thing of like, Jon, you are playing Carnegie Hall. We're married and we're really happy and we're really lucky. You can't hit 0. You can hit 5, but you can't hit 0, you know? So in terms of self-pity, I was not going to be able to have too much in a good way. And yet at the same time, we weren't pretending it wasn't happening.
Sounds like the exact right mix. And it sounds
It was
like
a very good
well.
mix. It was a very good mix.
So did it get better? How did it get better?
It's just time.
Yeah.
I mean, I still will have anxiety that I need to, like, you know, if I've been off meditating for a while, I will hit, you know, I'll hit a day where I'm like so mad about something insignificant or significant. But it's there. I'm a cumulative person. I'm very like polite and nice day to day, and a lot of things get shelved away, and then I get really mad. My dog got sick. She's fine now. She's always just been a little sick and then bounces back and does great. But she was sick at one point, maybe a year after the TV show or something. And I was talking to someone and I was like, I don't understand why she has acid reflux and there's nobody. And I was going on and I was like, this whole city. And they were like, whoa. How is Los Angeles to blame for this? And I was like, I don't know. I'm really mad about a lot of things. And that still happens.
So what's your meditation practice like now?
So I do 20 minutes a day. I try to do it at the theater, at the Lyceum Theater. So we've been doing the Oh Hello on Broadway show, which you saw. And
it's amazing.
Thank you very much. And we were just talking off mic about when you're doing the same thing over and over again. Now we're in a show that we improvise a lot, but when you're saying the same lines, and I felt this way with stand-up too, when you're saying the same lines over and over again, your mind, as we were saying, has a tendency to wander.
Yes, it does.
And that's totally natural.
But scary.
But scary and jarring and can be like slightly unnerving, and you're also in front of an audience, so the adrenaline and the stakes are high. So you're kind of playing with like a few different elements that can really throw you. So I have tried to do it closer to the show at the theater. There's lots of dressing rooms upstairs that we don't need because it's just a 2-man show. We're not like the cast of a musical, so there's all these empty dressing rooms, and they're pitch black when you shut the door, and I'll just sit in there and do 20 minutes then.
And what is your practice? What does it look like? What are you actually doing in your mind when you do it?
The one thing I do the one thing that I didn't take from your book is that you don't have to sit twisted up on the floor.
You actually do sit.
I sit lotus on the floor.
That's great.
Yeah, but I don't need to. I think I'd sit straighter if I didn't.
I don't tell people not to do it. I'm just saying if you can't do it, because I can't, it's okay. But you know, if some
sort of
great Asian master were in the room, they would. In fact, some great Asian masters are really dogmatic about, hey, you really do need to sit in this way. So if you can do it, that's great.
Yeah, I have weird legs and they kind of twist and bend, and so I can do it.
Nice.
It's not a perfectly quiet environment like a hotel. You hear people coming and going. I've really tried to embrace that, where I'm like, that is our sound guy walking up the stairs. That is a pipe. Like, that is the sound of a pipe again. Just relax. You know, like I've had really controlled environments a lot. Like, you know, our house is kind of quiet, and this is good because it's I don't know, orients me to the environment a lot.
So you're feeling your breath coming in and going out, and then when you hear a noise, you notice that and just go back to your breath? Is that
I really just try to go, that's Linda walking down the hall. Breathe in. That is that pipe again. Breathe out.
Does your wife meditate?
Yes. I don't know if she is currently. That's a good question.
So it's not a topic of discussion between the two of you?
Oh, that's maybe one thing I need to work on is saying I'm going to go meditate.
So what do you say? Does she think you're just spending a lot of time in the bathroom?
No, I say I'm going to go lay down.
Interesting. Does your co-star / co-writer / longtime friend Nick Kroll meditate?
I believe somewhat.
Really?
Yes, because, well, do you consider it meditating if you take yoga and they do that thing at the end?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, I think a lot of people use that as like nap time or like planning what they're going to do next.
Everyone uses it to plan what they're going to
Yeah,
eat.
so that, yeah. So I generally, in that.
It's one of the great meal apps.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that, whatever. Shavasana.
Shavasana as meal planner.
Yeah.
I think then it's probably, if you're affirmatively like planning your meal, then you're definitely not meditating.
That is totally true. Nick, everyone's open to meditation. There's no reason to lie. But I do say I'm going to go shut my eyes or lie down. Sometimes I say I'm going to meditate, but I definitely don't say it out loud that much.
So is that because in some part of you suspects that either your wife or your good friend / partner will be like, he's a weirdo?
Yes, it must be.
Yeah. No, I still have that too.
Yeah.
I still have it too.
Like the word is like, it's just one of those words that I grew up with as being like what like a funny hippie on a TV show does.
Yeah. No, I get it. Even around the office, before I anchored Nightline during the weekdays, I'll meditate in my office, or we actually have a meditation room around the corner from my office, which, interestingly enough, I had nothing to do with setting up.
Oh, wow.
It just kind of happened organically within the company. And I don't tell people that that's what I'm doing. I don't know why. I think it's for the same kind of weird reason that you're
I go to acupuncture every week, and I tell people I'm going to the doctor. And to the extent that some
That's
people...
even weirder, though, to go to the doctor every week.
Not in New York.
Yeah, apparently not. Yeah, maybe not.
That seemed... To me, I was like, I hope... Well, they'll probably be intrigued as to why I'm constantly going to physicians.
So you think acupuncture is in the same category as meditation in that way?
In that I lie about it. Well, in that, yeah. I guess I didn't expect to get to this, but yeah. Now that we're talking about it, I disguise those sides of me.
So does Anna not know that you're going? Well, she will know.
She knows
now.
I'm going to acupuncture.
But
she goes every week too.
Okay.
We go to the same guy.
Okay, so it's other people you're lying to, not your wife.
I'm lying to other people. Yes. I also I get so many benefits from acupuncture that I kind of can't miss it. However, it's really hard to be like, I absolutely cannot do that meeting because I have acupuncture.
You're a TV star. You can say whatever the hell you want.
Well, I'm on Broadway right now.
Okay, you're a Broadway star.
Thank you.
So you can say whatever you want on the spectrum of crazy things that performers say.
Yeah, but I am from like Chicago, and we're like Irish Catholic people.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
no, I like that about you. You don't feel fully comfortable being a complete monster. I like that about you. I think it's a good thing.
I don't feel comfortable being a complete monster or a whole person who goes to acupuncture and meditates because that makes him feel good, and that helps his system.
Yes. Okay. That actually you've seen it more holistically than I was seeing it. So tell me about Oh Hello.
Oh Hello is myself and Nick Kroll doing two characters. Nick plays a character named Gil. I play a character named George. We've been doing these guys for about 10 years. 2006, we started doing them as sketch comedy characters. We hosted a show down in the East Village. They're two guys from the Upper West Side of Manhattan, like deep 70s in Columbus, not far from where we are now. Gil is an also-ran actor. George is an also-ran novelist. They wish they were Richard Dreyfuss and Philip Roth. They're 100% not. They're obsessed with the kind of man Alan Alda is, a turtleneck and a sport coat, a learned writer-actor. He's the peak for them and also someone that in the narrative of their show they stalk. And they're just tote bag guys. These are guys with Strand tote bags.
Or are these people that you've observed in nature? Like, where did this come from?
Yes, we saw them we saw these two guys that were the jumping off point at the Strand bookstore. which is in
downtown, though.
Downtown, yeah, not the pop-ups in Times Square. Downtown.
I guess what I'm saying is, so how did you place them in the deep 70s?
That was more kind of like the Woody Allen-ness of it. You know,
he's an Upper East Side guy.
Wait, is he?
Yeah.
Well,
I like that you put them deep 70s.
Maybe part of it. I mean, no. I was about to say part of it's that I'm an outsider to New York, But no, Upper West Side sounded right.
It is. It feels absolutely
right. It's
100%. I used to. I mean, we are in Lincoln Square right now, but so not far from this part of the world that you're talking about. But I used to live up there, and like you've nailed a certain type.
Oh, great. There are many in the West Village. There are many in Albuquerque, Berkeley, Chicago, everywhere. Boston.
Do people who fit this stereotype, older men who are like your characters,
irrelevant? They don't know they're irrelevant.
No. Do they see themselves in what you guys are doing?
No. No one thinks they're a loser.
Because I didn't see anybody.
No one thinks they're a loser.
I didn't see anybody who even fit that demo in the audience the night I was there. It was all...
Well, let me be careful how I phrase this. We have people around the same age as George and Gil. They enjoy the show a lot. I mean, the show is about these guys looking back on their life in New York in the 1970s and the 1980s, and Ed Koch and Steely Dan and rent-controlled apartments. And it's about a lot of... It's a very silly show. We also are basically just Muppets, but it's a very silly show grounded in a realness that we really appreciated as like fetishizers of 1970s New York. And I think other people who experienced it also appreciate it. There's a lot of... this show is written by two men in their 30s, but we wrote it in an altered state where we were two men in our 70s.
I'm just curious for you as like an Irish guy from
Chicago.
Yeah. Like, why would you be interested in this?
I don't know, but I like it so much.
And it was all because you were at an event at the Strand bookstore?
No, so we saw these... Well, we saw these two guys at the Strand bookstore. At the time, Nick and I were trying to figure out a way to host this stand-up show in the East Village. We saw these two guys, and they were each buying a copy of Alan Alda's autobiography, Never Have Your Dog Stuffed. And they were each buying hardcover copies, okay? And they looked like Bert and Ernie, like in the sense of the relationship. Like they looked like two platonic friends who might share an apartment together, but they were also selfish enough to each buy a copy of the book. Like they looked joined at the hip, but also, you know, as Nick says, they wouldn't share a copy of the book, but they probably share a Murphy bed. So we followed them, and they had...
You actually followed them?
Yeah. We had nothing to do. We were like 23 and 26, and we had nothing to do. We were just wandering around. And they had that kind of cadence of like Jon Stewart, you know, like that type of... that very assured wrong pronunciation.
There's a lot of that in the play.
It's confidently pronouncing words wrong is a big part of Oh Hello. And it was at that time where... like the New York Times had just discovered Jon Stewart and how like you remember when for like 2 years you could sound smart by saying kids get their politics from the Daily Show?
Yes. Yeah.
It was peak time for that. It was just a lot. There was a great... These men were authorities on everything.
And did you learn this because you followed them long enough to actually hear them talk?
No, they were just got it. and it set off like a bunch of associations for both of us. Nick having grown up in Westchester, New York. Myself having sort of fetishized New York from afar and watched a lot of film in the 70s set in New York. And that kind of like weird Sanka, tan khakis, brown turtleneck, brown jacket. Just kind of an awful look where a guy had hair like oatmeal and he like wore high-waisted corduroys and he was an architect and this was like a bachelor that all women in the film are in love with. That type of thing was just very interesting and very, very familiar to both of us. And we wanted to play those types of guys. And
so you then started hosting this event in the East
We
Village?
would host this stand-up show at a place called Rafifi, and we would come up and say, like, we really wanted to get into the hot in-town scene, and we're going to bring up some of you young comedians, and we would interview them, and it was kind of it was very quickly what it is. It was these two liberal, intolerant men who, talk down to people, but are just clearly life's losers, life's glorious losers.
And did you have any inkling that this was going to be such a long-running shtick?
I didn't see what would ever stop it because we liked doing it so much. I remember I had a list of things I wanted to do in maybe 2008 when I was a writer at Saturday Night Live, and one of them, I still have the list. It's like I wanted to do a stand-up special, and I did that, and then the next thing we wanted to do was an Oh Hello Party album. It was like a party record is what you called like a comedy record in the 60s, like sort of like for adults to put on at a cocktail party. Mm-hmm. The 2,000-Year-Old Man isn't exactly a party album, but it's kind of that vibe. I was like, oh, we should record an album like that, where like these guys think they're doing sophisticated urbane humor, but it sucks. And we never did that, but we ended up doing the characters on Kroll Show. When Nick got the show on Comedy Central, we very quickly started doing these short, more like filmic pieces with the characters. Then, in the second season, we started having them host a prank show called Too Much Tuna, which was a bit we had talked about downtown a lot, that we had a show called Too Much Tuna where you're interviewing someone and then there's tuna served and everything grinds to a halt because it's too much tuna. So that was kind of in the air. We all remember that time when that was in the air. The Too Much Tuna really connected with people. They were always characters that comedy people liked, but we maybe couldn't get a lot of traction with. We were turned down by the Aspen Comedy Festival. They said the show was too old. They're like, this is a young festival and you're playing old guys. And we were like, oh, okay. Did I ever think it would run this long? We always thought like, oh, this is kind of maybe too specific. But somehow Too Much Tuna broke it wider. And we started getting tweets and Instagrams from 14-year-old girls in Dallas who would be like, too much tuna. And somehow it just...
Really?
Yeah, they were just like, oh, okay. These guys are like tuna fish. They like tuna salad. I get it. It was like, sometimes you just need like a hook. And ours had a tuna on it. It was really just like, oh, I get it. These guys are losers who have a prank show called Too Much Tuna. For some reason, it crystallized it.
And this was after the Kroll Show stuff.
Yeah, the Kroll Show, both as a platform, obviously, and Nick letting us do it on the show, it was like it broke it to a wider audience, but also it somehow broadened it like when you can go broad in a weird way, it's the best thing for comedy. When like what's weirder about your thing makes it go wider, is a great thing.
So how did you get to the point where you were writing a play? Because there were any number of things you could have done with it after the Kroll Show stopped, including nothing.
Including nothing. And by the way, we were getting tweets, but the public wasn't banging down our door. But we did appreciate that it had kind of a wider appeal than we thought. We really did appreciate that. So then my show's canceled. Nick decides to stop doing Kroll Show after 3 seasons.
Why?
In order, he really completed what he wanted to do with it. He really saw. I mean, it was a very, very admirable thing to watch.
Yeah, it is.
A very cool thing to watch. Where he was like, "I've done what I want to do with this, and I'm going to walk away rather than just keep making for the sake of making." Very. I mean, I don't know if he meditates, but he's very centered. So then we did an event to promote the 3rd season at the 92nd Street Y in character. Interviewed by, apologies, Willie Geist. This is what happened, Dan.
No apologies necessary. I think Willie Geist is amazing.
It's okay. It's a rival.
He's no Alan Alda.
What?
He's no Alan Alda.
Well, no one is. Anyway, we were interviewed and we did an audience Q&A. And it was like the first time we had done them live in like 7 years. We'd done them on film for Comedy Central. And it was an hour and a half. We prepared so little. And by the way, we thought we'd prepared. But we'd prepared like 3 jokes. We just kept talking at the hotel about other stuff and like what we should order before the show to eat. And we just never wrote anything down. And then we got on stage and we really did like 90 minutes. And it was so fun. And after that, someone asked us what we were going to do next. And we said, "Oh, Hello" on Broadway, which was a joke that we immediately knew we would do.
Wow.
Or that we would try to do.
And so you started not on Broadway.
No, we started off Broadway. Yeah. It'd be very hard to start on Broadway.
Yeah,
and it's insane that we're even on Broadway.
It is kind of insane, but like in a really good way.
In a great way, but it is totally bizarre.
Did you think when because you started, where was the theater you started?
We were at the Cherry Lane Theater
on
downtown.
Minetta. Yeah. Did you you guys did a limited run there? Did you think, okay, or this is the end, we'll do this, and then we'll go off and do other things, or?
No, I can't pretend that we hadn't already talked about Broadway. we'd both been big theater fans, and we both saw a lot of theater in New York. I don't know if we thought, I don't know. We didn't know that much about the space. And I don't know if we thought, like, within the next 2 years we'll be in that space. So we were a little ignorant of the steps. And I think that sort of initially helped our confidence because we were like, the way to do Broadway is to do off-Broadway first. So we did this run at the Cherry Lane, and we'd both been on television, and we'd done the show. We'd done Kroll show, and we'd done these characters. We sold out our run in like 8 hours, which was great. Great way to do it. And we just had to do we just then did the show, and we got some nice reviews, and then from there, we were still thinking about going bigger in New York. It'd still just been the most fun thing we ever did. It was still just like, there's nothing more fun than this. We both have other things going on, but let's make sure let's tour it this year. And that was the first step. We took it to Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Montreal, San Diego. Bigger and bigger theaters, which was good for scale because we went from doing it to a 179-seat theater off-Broadway to like 1,000-seat theaters.
Wow.
And that was just like, what's it like for these guys to project more and scale up and have the set and have the show be a bigger experience. And then, look, the unbelievable break of it all was we got interest to come to Broadway, and we're able to do it. And we're able to do it a year after doing off-Broadway. Both the calendar, the very fact that it exists, all of it is astonishing. The more I've learned about the theater world, we're very, very flattered and lucky to be in that space. I have to admit, though, I think some of our ignorance helped our initial, dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ignorance actually, in some rare cases, can be bliss.
Or at least foolish motivation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So the original idea was that you guys were going to stop the show when?
I guess we weren't sure. I'm trying to think back now, and I don't know if I remember exactly. Because we were sort of like, okay, we just did off-Broadway. That was awesome. Well, I think we thought about a week at the Beacon. I think we thought about, we knew there was a lot of demand to see the show in New York, so we were like, how do we capitalize off that? What's a fun way to do that? A theater in Union Square that's 300 seats as opposed to 200, and we do like a longer run. We just didn't know what pieces would fall in which order. So we decided to go on tour, and I think it was going on tour and the nice reviews we got off Broadway that helped people and our producers maybe see it in that light. And though they had been interested since off Broadway.
And now though the show keeps getting extended. You're running through January 22nd, right?
Yeah, I don't know when this airs, but yeah, we're running through January 22nd.
I think soon. And what beyond that? Do you have any sense what you're going to do beyond that at all?
I'll be going on tour doing stand-up after that. And we do have more we'd like to do with the characters.
Movie?
Oh, well, we'd like to film this show in some regard, the show we're doing. And then, yeah, we're open to anything. I'm not being cagey. We don't know. But yeah, sure, we'll do a movie.
If people want to learn more about you, where can they go? Is there a website?
I have a website. It's nice. I don't think there's much on it. You can go to Wikipedia. I have 2 specials on Netflix. I like those. It's just me the whole time. And then, I have Twitter and those things.
And
so I'm off it now.
You're off Twitter?
I deleted it from my phone.
Why?
Just in the past 48 hours.
What happened?
Just overload.
Is this post-election stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you, if people want to learn about Oh Hello, is there a website for that, or just go online?
ohhellobroadway.com.
Okay. We've had a lot of guests, but you are among the tippity-top most delightful guests.
I can't believe that.
It's absolutely true.
I've listened to the show. You've had great guests.
The guests have been amazing, but you've been amazing. It's really, I mean that sincerely. It's been
well,
really
thanks
fun.
for writing the book. It was really helpful to my whole life. And I don't think I could have approached it without someone who is a straight-laced guy. So thanks for being uptight and also meditating. It helped me, even though I lie about it.
Okay, there's another edition of the 10% Happier podcast. If you liked it, please make sure to subscribe, rate us, and if you want to suggest topics we should cover or guests we should bring in, hit me up on Twitter at Dan B. Harris. I also want to thank heartily the people who produce this podcast and really do pretty much all the work. Lauren Efron, Josh Cohan, Sarah Amos, Andrew Kalb, Steve Jones, and the head of ABC News Digital, Dan Silver. I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Hey, Prime members. You can listen to 10% Happier early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today. Or you can listen early and ad-free with Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts. Before you go, do us a solid and tell us all about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.